Myself, Prateek, with my team members Roham and Amir, will be presenting markets where Bicker AG can expand in Latin America. The structure of presentation will be in four phases. Initially, we'll look at markets where companies already established. Secondly, we'll introduce the analysis we perform for determining the three countries where Bicker AG can invest in. Thirdly, some risk mitigation strategies will be discussed. Lastly, other influential factors will be discussed using case model. Bicker AG, a grocery retail chain headquartered in Netherlands. The current market of Bicker AG is in UK, Netherlands, and Germany. The risk flow here shows the three countries lying on the efficient frontier and their distances from Nirvana and Armageddon points. If we go through the economic risk in the existing countries, inflation is really low and most of the risk factors are lying below the median value. Some of the important risk factors which will be used for determining grocery retail market expansion will be employing workers, exchange rate fluctuation, inflation and rising food prices. On the other hand, political risk values seem to be quite varied. Some of the important risk values which will be used for analysis further will be currency inconvertibility, income inequality, transport infrastructure, and electric supply. There are some key takeaway points from existing market. Moving further, let's look at the decisive factors and their values in invested markets such as Poland, Czech Republic, and Hungary. We can see that the economic risk factors are having the same values with rising food prices around 0.5 and inflation, employing workers, and exchange rate fluctuations having similar and low values, which make it a good market. On the other hand, political risks seem to be quite varied, with currency inconvertibility being zero and electricity supply values below 0.40. The income inequality and transport infrastructure are on a higher side. These are some key takeaway points from the invested market. Now we can determine the three countries where Bicker AG can expand by analyzing the risk flow, as it gives us aggregate picture of economic and political risk. We can see that Venezuela, Argentina and Ecuador do not seem to be attractive options as they are close to Armageddon area. On the other side, Uruguay and Mexico are close to Nirvana, making them least risky and attractive options. Brazil and Colombia are laid on the same indifference curve, which makes it important for them to be analyzed in detail. Brazil's GDP and population is 5 times that of Colombia, which makes it as attractive market. Brazil population can provide us economy of scale and compensate Uruguay's small population. Based on the decisive risk factors, Brazil has lesser risk than Colombia. The two major differences are in terms of employing workers and exchange rate fluctuations. However, exchange rate fluctuation is a decisive factor to expand in Latin American countries as currency needs to be converted in euros. Hence, a high risk value is unsafe. Brazil's exchange rate fluctuation has been one-third times of Colombia. Therefore, we believe that Uruguay, Mexico, and Brazil are the best selection amongst these options. Now, I'll hand in the presentation to Rohan to take it forward.
Hello, I'm Rohan Breze and we'll discuss some risk mitigation strategies. First factor is burden of government regulations. We are a big player with high bargaining power. We can negotiate with governments or lobby legislators to remove the impediments because our entrance to any region is likely to result in economic growth for that region. Second factor is the extent and effect of taxation. Specifically for Brazil, one option is exploiting debt shield. We can mitigate the risk by maintaining a high gearing level by financing more with debts than equity, meanwhile considering the riskiness of a high leverage position. Thirdly, income inequality mitigation. Higher this factor is, more people have less wages. For instance, if Bicker opens a supermarket in Brazil, it will create employment opportunities, providing wages to lower class people and reducing the income inequality risk in Brazil. Also, Mexico and Brazil have the biggest population amongst our options and higher income inequality in the case of potential for cheaper labor there. Exchange rate fluctuations can be mitigated by hedging. We can buy forward option contracts as well as taking advantage of swapping. We can swap FX fluctuations with both banks and companies whose earnings are in euros. Finally, to mitigate transport infrastructure, we can establish strategic lines with well-known logistic companies. The geographic location and relative close distance with US is a considerable factor. For instance, Mexico has a minimum risk since it is nearby to US. Also, Mexico has made 582 billion pesos investments in infrastructure. Now I will hand the presentation to Amir.
Hi, this is Amir Ibrahimov. I will be analyzing other influential factors. As you can see, the major factors are shown in this flowchart. The first phase determines that Bicker can opt for market development using ANSOF model. In other words, we are offering an existing product to a new market. Secondly, we will introduce a good tool for market development strategy as CAGE framework. CAGE gives us insight about distance between our current market and candidate market. CAGE have 4 dimensions: cultural, political, geographic, and economic. Zurich Risk Room covered political and economic, and we will discuss the factor associated with geographical and cultural. Looking at the cultural distance, language is a major barrier. The native language of South and Latin American countries are Spanish or Portuguese, while none of the countries in our current market speaks such languages. Distance to USA is another thing that must be considered. Most of the Latin American countries are having imports from US which is located closely to them. In addition, the urbanization of Uruguay is an important problem. It is a like double-edged sword. On the one hand, because of densely populated region, this creates huge opportunity to open supermarket, and on the other hand, because of natural disaster risk, it can be a major threat. Finally, last factor is payment culture. Latin America doesn't have advanced payment method as Europe. Therefore, it's pretty common that even a small payment would be delayed. In the same time, supermarkets have frequent incoming and outgoing cash flows. So, for an industry with negative cash cycle period, this is a huge negative impact on converting the incoming pesos to outgoing euro that can lead to higher cash cycle period, which can be a concern. In conclusion, Bicker can enter into Latin American market by investing in Uruguay, Brazil, and Mexico by also taking into account the factor discussed in the cage model. Thank you for your attention.